Welcome back to another episode of the Up Your Smile Game podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Dacia Russell Goman, a double board certified obesity medicine specialist and metabolic health strategist, as well as practice owner and mother of three. She's such an inspiration for Black women, and I just want to welcome her to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Okay, just so our audience knows, I've known Dacia, Dr. Russell Goman. Before she was Dr. Russell Goman, she was Dacia Russell Esquire, corporate lawyer, such a baddie, and a party girl. Yes, these girls party too. So today we're going to talk about what she is doing now in the wellness area, the wellness arena, especially with obesity medicine. It's so important. It's such a big part of everyone's life. But before we get started, if you could just take us down the path and progression of your career, starting with what inspired you to pursue medicine and specifically obesity medicine.
Oh gosh, I think my path has been equal parts inspiration and desperation, right? I mean, there have been some interesting twists and turns, some pretty hard pivots, some I really wanted, some that came as a shock to me, but through it all, I think resilience, family preparation, all those things were really key. So, I was the kid in high school that studied a lot and loved science. So I went to college, Harvard College, with every intention of being a doctor. I kind of did all the things, did my MCAT, but sort of, things opened up, in college in a lot of ways. And towards the end, I wanted to take some time off and, explore the business world a bit more just because, it was exciting at that time to go work in consulting or investment banking or one of these kinds of careers. And so I did that, and it was good. I learned a lot, but then, I'm completely dating myself. It was like the dot-com bust, right? Happened right at the
Yeah.
middle of my tenure at a consulting firm where I worked. So that was kind of hard pivot one, right? That door sort of closed and other things opened. I ended up going to law school, which had been something I'd been thinking about anyway. And, went out to Stanford and had a great time there, made great friends, learned a lot, went to work for kind of a corporate Wall Street firm. And, it was the kind of big money, big bad corporate law, right? Nothing like the TV shows. Everyone wasn't as good looking, but we had fun, and that's when I met you in DC. But
Yeah.
again, another big macroeconomic event. I mean, we had the Great Recession, the Lehman Brothers fall, and we went from having too
You
much
know what?
work to like,
Dacia, wait, there's so much meat there, okay? Like when you give somebody the elevator pitch of like what happened in the last 25 years, you've got like financial crises, childbirth, pregnancy, but like where did it start? Wait, Harvard, you went to Harvard
I went to
High, just
Harvard.
like put that on the
Yeah,
table.
yeah. I took the
And
MCAT, decided I wanted to do business, then decided I wanted to do law, then finally realized what I thought was going to be right for me at 18 was the right thing, going into medicine.
yeah, and that's such a good point. A lot of people, myself included, we think we need to know what we're going to do when we grow up, right? When people start asking you when you're 10, 11, 12, when we're 18, we start college, we're supposed to have our destiny, right in front of us and know the path that we're taking. And I really want, especially, our audience, especially Black students, Black women who are still in school or maybe want to pivot and get out of a certain industry to know that there's no prescribed plan, there's no path, right? So you went to college, you thought about medicine, but during that era, and let's talk about that. That was the millennium. We came out of school,
Right.
in the millennium. The internet was new, the startups, the .com, busting out, but we were still raised by boomers.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that we were going to have this digital millennium that was going to have a lot of diversified options in terms of marketing ourselves in industries that may not have even been created yet. And that kind of gets us into like when you decided to go to medical school. Like, how did you coming from law after you went to Stanford, got your law degree, you worked at a huge firm. Can you talk about like just transitioning from corporate law and
Right.
getting into healthcare, because that's a huge gear shift.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a couple things worked in my favor. One, I had done all the science stuff. I was a chemistry concentrator major in college. So I think one, had some of the preparation. Two, I went to Harvard College and they had a really phenomenal system for making sure that, we were able to keep house letters and recommendations and that sort of thing on file. So there was a lot of support from that institution. So I credit them a lot. I mean, there was also that, when I really thought about what I valued in a career, how I wanted to use my own talents, and how I wanted to have an impact. I mean, medicine just made a lot more sense. So I took the leap. And I think one of the really good things about the American education system, I mean, there's plenty of issues, is, I mean, there is that versatility. I mean, and there is that opportunity. I was a non-traditional, i.e. older med student, but I didn't have any issues. I mean, that was an asset actually. So, and there are people out there that do post-bac programs. So if they haven't done the science, in college, they can do the science later and then put together an application for medical school. So, we do have an education system, and medical schools are welcoming to, students from different backgrounds. So, all those things wound up being an asset. I mean, it wasn't easy necessarily, but again, I had a good education. I was coming off a good job. I had some money saved, and all those factors really provided me that runway to go to medical school.
Yeah, indeed, assets. That's exactly it. That life, that lived experience, that world outside of healthcare. So you have a nice perspective to look at it. And then all of your legal training. I mean, you are a true advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, we all know that the law and medicine, we live in this litigious society, and you cannot practice any kind of medicine without jurisprudence and without conscience. And so, well, let's get into that. So you went to med school. Okay, like that was not a walk in the park.
Right, right.
And I, being your friend all these years, I know that it came with marriage, it came with pregnancy. Do you want to talk a little bit more about just as a woman going through the rigorous training to become a physician, and how many years it took? I guess specifically, like, when did you decide you wanted to go into obesity medicine? And then how long was that training till you got to the
Yeah.
point where you were able to do what you wished?
Yeah, so medical school is 4 years. I did my residency actually in emergency medicine. That's my primary specialty, and I've been practicing acute care medicine for the past couple of years. I think my interest in wellness and obesity medicine really have emerged, kind of starting in the pandemic. Again, I like a lot of acute care medicine, but I've always been interested in some of the grassroots issues, some of the community issues, and things, to be done to really make people healthier. I mean, acute care medicine, we deal with a disease process that's kind of gone really awry, right? We deal with emergencies and people who are really sick, but I want to devote some time to helping people, with their health span, helping people, never kind of need me in the emergency department. So I think it's just been a little bit of an evolution of, the training I've had, what I've seen in the healthcare system, that coupled with, my own values and what I want to accomplish. Obesity medicine is a different kind of certification in that it can be done through kind of study and testing. It isn't like my emergency medicine residency where, I had to, for 3 years kind of pound through all these different, rotations and what have you. And again, luckily there is a certification that exists. It's a growing field. Still a very new field. There's been a lot of changes on the pharmaceuticals that we have access to. So it's just a really exciting space to be in.
Yeah, it's so timely. I mean, right now, there's so much in the news with the craze about the medications, the weight loss medications like Wegovy and
Mm-hmm.
Ozempic. And then, of course, we have, maybe we're twilighting on these weight loss surgeries or plastic surgeries like the BBL. I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts on the weight loss medications, holistically? I know that your philosophy with medicine is very holistic. And a lot of people, there's so much shame and misinformation going around. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the healthy way to approach weight loss.
Right. I mean, you bring up some amazing points. Having obesity, having excess weight, it is a health condition. It is a chronic condition, right? I mean, in the specialty, we try to move away from language of calling someone, obese. A person is not obese. They have obesity, right? So I think that transitioning our thinking to really, really, interpreting this as a chronic health condition and one that needs, expert advice, where, medications are sometimes, completely appropriate. There's no stigma involved in taking them. It's not a moral failing if you need medication. You're not weak. It's not your fault, right? So I think that there's a lot of this shame and stigma around these issues, unfortunately. So, moving towards a dialogue where we reduce that, where we think of this as a chronic condition like hypertension or diabetes, where no one gets mad at someone for, needing their metformin for diabetes, right? But then there's all these other sort of issues that get bound up in if someone's gonna, take Ozempic or Wegovy or something like that. And medication access is, another part of the problem. And as Black community, as Black folks, we are very underrepresented in our access to medications. I mean, most people out there are underrepresented in their access to these medications. So there's a lot of tough kind of social issues involved in it as well.
Yeah, the barriers to care just affect us in so many ways. I mean, in terms of, as a dentist, in terms of oral health, I mean, you've got all these systemic links, and we have patients who are not getting care for bigger problems, and then we see manifestations in terms of their oral health needs. And it is frustrating because we are sensitive to the legacy of limited access. And then it's our job as educators at the same time. I mean, can you specifically talk to Black women uh, in terms of like encouragement? Like where, if, for example, if we have a listener who maybe has, not always struggled with obesity, but
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, especially as women age, you could even give insight to that as we get into our, post-pregnancy years, our
Right.
perimenopausal years, and as our weight fluctuates and our bodies change. How would you guide a woman to approach her weight loss?
Yeah, so I think it's really about your health. And I think there's a couple of important things to think about. One, don't be kind of bullied by your BMI. This BMI number, it's all over our medical charts. BMI is your body mass index. And what that is, it's a ratio between your weight and your height. We use that ratio to evaluate or to set up this kind of staging criteria to say, okay, are you overweight? Do you have obesity, severe obesity, what have you? And it's a helpful, it's a useful metric, but it's not perfect. And historically, there's actually a lot of issues with it, right? It was something that was designed, and used primarily by the insurance industry to kind of stratify patients. It's something that was, based on data and models from, non-Black, non-women, not us, right? So it's not perfect, right? And I think sometimes, again, some of the stigma and some of the, unfortunate kind of interactions that people have is because they're kind of labeled with this thing based on their BMI. So yes, it's a number, and it does not equal your health, but it can impart some information, about your metabolic health. If you are dealing with excess weight and you're interested in body transformation, you need to find an expert out there, one that's aligned with your own values and one that's going to give you a personalized approach, right? As you mentioned, in different stages of your life and different circumstances, there's, different things at play. Are you postmenopausal? Have you just had a baby? Are you breastfeeding? If you've been dealing with excess weight your entire life. I mean, all those things will require a personalized approach, but there are kind of a few big arenas that we think about, right? Adjusting an eating plan, having a framework for accountability, thinking about habit change, thinking about medications or other, medically assisted kind of processes like surgeries. So again, seeking out an expert person. There's folks like me that are boarded in obesity medicine. There are primary care physicians that can do it. There's, other healthcare practitioners engaged as well. And, people are out there. There's probably not enough of us, but there are folks out there. So, again, really finding someone that's aligned with your values, someone that's going to, approach your process personally, and someone that, again, is going to give you the best shot at getting access to, the medications and the other kind of medical, opportunities out there to really transform your body.
You hit so many points. Number one, just understanding the history of these values that we are measured against, like BMI, in terms of population and inclusion. And then that kind of leads us into like you establishing your own practice, opening up Apex Metabolic, and your website is very comprehensive. It really makes you think that there is a team available to help you with your weight loss, and also understanding that insurance is also part of that. Has it is it policy that's new, that's really incentivized insurance companies to participate in this journey, or do you see a lot of resistance? Like, just talk about
Mhm.
talk. Let's talk about your practice.
Yeah. So my practice is it's, we're early stage. I'm not quite seeing patients yet, but we're getting closer every day. We do plan to take insurance. I'm credentialing with insurance, but it is tough. Unfortunately, all industries out there, including the insurance industry, there still is that stigma that, weight and excess weight and obesity are the fault of someone, and all you need to do is just, stop eating too much or exercise or, whatever that standard advice is. But things are changing. There's been advocacy out there, that we're doing on the individual level. There's organizations out there doing it. Medicare, some of the government plans as well are certainly throwing more resources at obesity, in terms of funding and access to medication. So there's some things coming down the pipe that are really exciting, and so I think the space is opening up. It's tough, but the progress is being made. But from an individual perspective, yes, I mean, seek out someone who can do or is going to offer you something comprehensive, right? Because when you are transforming your body, when you're shedding excess weight, you hit multiple areas of your life. Like, it isn't just what you eat; it's what you eat, how you move, who you're around, your mindset, your habits. It's kind of all of those things. So there is support out there, but again, it is tough. I do think things are moving, slowly. It's not the fastest process in the world, but and also there's a lot of, there's social media, there's a lot of folks out there who are giving away lots of good, valuable information, and certainly that can be used as well.
Yeah, it is widely available. I feel like there's so many gyms out there. There are these fitness apps. I mean, Peloton's really popular. In
Mm-hmm.
our group chat, we're always talking about Peloton. But yeah, I mean, how, in terms of opening up your own practice, can you talk to any challenges that you have faced with that? And particularly as they are linked to you being mother of three young children, um, and still your responsibilities as a physician.
Yeah,
Can you?
I mean, I'm still working full time during emergency medicine, and I do have three very rambunctious kids. And so, that prioritization of, getting things done, I mean, that's always tough. I think that trying to just chunk it and do kind of little bits every day. The good thing is, working full time does give me a runway. So, though, it gives me less concentrated time as long as I can kind of stay on a schedule, doing all the practical things, getting your LLC, talking to the lawyers, getting your insurance contracts, right? Been kind of working through all of those. So again, time is always something that's tough. Opening a practice is an entrepreneurial endeavor, and I think there's a fair amount of just personal transformation that has to happen, right? In emergency medicine, you build it, they come, right? There's an emergency department, patients show up. This is a very different endeavor. You have to think about branding, you have to think about, marketing. And these aren't things that are taught in medical school. I don't come from a family of physicians, I don't come from a family where anyone owns a private practice. So these are all things that I have to learn about. I learned from you. I learned from, I do. I mean,
I
you're a
learned.
pro for all these things, right? I mean, you have to learn these things, and particularly for Black folks and Black women, it's not handed to us, right? Even more so than other folks. Not that it's necessarily handed to anyone, right? But there's that ultimate barrier, that second barrier of learning it, your own transformation, getting out there. I'm attempting to do this without taking a loan, but even access to funds and capital. I mean, that's one of those things as well that can be very, very challenging for any entrepreneur, but particularly entrepreneurs of color and women. So the challenges are there, but again, I have a runway because I have a full time job, so I kind of use that ability to kind of stretch things out to kind of mitigate against some of the time constraints and the financial constraints, trying to bootstrap and self fund.
Dacia, you're a very unique person. You are always on, intense, positive, calm. I mean, you've helped me through so many little life challenges, and I can imagine as a provider, your patients know that you really care about them and put them first. And I think you really nailed on something that is probably my biggest gripe, and that is it's not just not having access to capital, but the inheritance of wealth, that transfer of wealth that so many, especially in the industries
Mhm.
of medicine, and then these, any kind of entrepreneurial pursuit that's connected to an industry like healthcare, they are very expensive to venture into and to succeed. And when you inherit that level of wealth, that transfer, that confidence, it's night and day. And I think
Mhm.
that it's something that now that I'm 20 years in, I speak very casually about, because 70% of my colleagues work with their parents, grandparents.
Mhm.
They, even students that I teach will say, I'm going to go back to Ohio, or I'm going to go out to Washington and work for my dad. And that, to me, that's powerful. It means that you're getting excellent training, support. But then, the fact that I'm not coming from the same circumstance, I can appreciate the challenges that other people may face when they don't have that cushion. And that speaks volumes to policy, politics, everything going on today. We can't
Oh,
ignore the
yeah.
pink elephant. But you've managed to do it. And I think that you have that legal training. Has that enabled you to get kind of around, like you said, having contracts and all these little moving parts? Has that helped you with that legal training, that background, or do you still outsource and find a lot of attorneys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it helps in the sense of, I understand some aspects of, the process. I can read a contract and, I understand corporate formation and that sort of thing. I mean, I know what I don't know. I'm still a licensed attorney and I still want the experts to do it. So yes, I still hire attorneys and what have you. But I think that, your confidence and comfort with doing that, knowing even how do you find an attorney, like what are the questions to ask, how can you efficiently use the time and, kind of best leverage, the limited budget that you do have. I certainly think it absolutely helps, in that realm.
I'm sure it's comforting just
Yep.
knowing, like, because some people they can't, they get intimidated by the
Right.
word contract. I know with starting my oral care line, my business partner is an IP lawyer.
Right.
He's an intellectual property lawyer. He was my first boss out of college, y'all. He taught me how to draft contracts. And so it's comforting knowing that he's already looking at things. And then even my experience as a contract coordinator has aided me with really looking at, fine lines and reading things, reading them again, reading them from a certain perspective. And that's why I tell people, get experience.
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
experience in the food industry, experience retail, sell clothes for a
Oh,
day.
yeah.
I remember my sister worked at Banana Republic, and man, that job that job was harder than grad school.
Right.
When you think about dealing with people as a dentist, as a practice owner, is it, the technical, dentistry,
Yeah.
of course, it is challenging, but working with people and managing personalities and expectations and stress is probably more challenging than the actual clinical work. But with your career, I just have to say it out loud. I mean, this girl, she Harvard, Oxford, Stanford, big time law firm. Can we say the name
You
here?
can name the name. You can name the
Skadden Arps. I
name.
mean, and then like casually, I remember when I think I was moving to Germany, or maybe I just moved there, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about moving to Russia or going to med school," and I was like, "Wow, they're so different." And then here she is, um, you know, going to med school and doing a thing. And so, I mean, with all of those accomplishments, and I want to pause on that. All of those accomplishments, because we don't like it, we don't marinate in our accomplishments. We're kind of like, all right, I did that, all right. But with all of that success, what do you feel has been the highlight of your career so far?
Ultimately, I think it's just that people keep letting me, well, I mean, it's not people, I just keep getting to do these things, right? It's like I go to the college I always wanted to go to. Decided I didn't want to be a doctor. Then I changed my mind. And then, it's just that, I've been able to just, work my way through these different professions and these, different sets of all these amazing things. And, in the process of that, I'm married, I have kids, I have great friends, I've traveled, and I really get to do the things that are important to me. And that, not everyone gets to do those things or live that life. So, I think I've just been constantly optimistic that, you can have a job that you're good at, or you can own a business you're great at, and you can do good and be good and have, good things, nice things. I mean, you can accomplish all those things, not always at the same time, and not to say that it doesn't take sacrifice and prioritization and such. But I just think the ability to, be able to do these things, whether it's driven by kind of resilience or, whatever that, I don't know if I've yet identified what that kind of, commonality or that, thread between the common thread is, but, just being able to kind of have that and deploy that.
It's your toolbox. It is resilience. It is opportunity. It's preparation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were I can only imagine what you were like in high school. I mean, I met her post law school, so I can only imagine what she was like at Harvard, then even law school. It sounds like you practice gratitude, and that's something that I have been working on, just waking up and being thankful for the opportunities and what I have, and also appreciating what I have. I know that so many times we're so rushed and we're so anxious about our next thing that we don't really take time to be thankful and appreciate how far we have come. And it sounds like, you've just got that balance. Where do you think you get that balance? Your mom?
Yeah, probably my mom. I mean, sometimes I think I don't necessarily believe in balance. I just more believe in kind of like priorities, right? Like certain times in my life, they've been more mellow and it's been more about the kids and X, Y, and Z. Other times in my life, I'm able to prioritize certain things that I want to accomplish more with the support of others around me. So some of it's a little bit of self-interest. You got to take care of yourself. I mean, I think that being a fulfilled person makes me a better mom, a better doctor, a better business owner. So, knowing that I have to, again, strive for things that, serve my autonomy and my authenticity, in addition to, serving other people as well. So, I try to throw myself in the equation a little bit just to make sure, again, that I'm bringing my best to, all these different things out there.
Yeah, self-care, man. Self-care, like it used to be. I don't even think we had that term growing up. I remember there was this Calgon commercial. Remember that Calgon, take me away. But self-care could just be turning off your phone.
Mhm.
Self-care could just be, looking at balancing your spreadsheet or what have you. And I think especially with your work in obesity medicine and weight loss journeys, having that, full view of what self-care and healthcare and wellness and, you know, living your best life, like what that really looks like. Because sometimes it's muddy. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's not, it ain't cute. It ain't going to be on social media.
Right.
But it's you're pursuing self-care. I'm grinding. And then sometimes you're just chilling. You're not
Yeah.
even looking for anyone to take a snap of the pic. You're just like, I'm just in this moment. I'm just happy that, I don't got to rob Peter to pay Paul and Mary, and nobody's asking me to double check something. But that is great. Well, all right, we are at the last part of our
Okay.
interview. I'm calling this the lightning round. I haven't figured out a cool title for it, but I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I just want you to give
Okay.
your reflex response. This is not a pop quiz. This isn't torts. This isn't, intubating a patient or an emergency trying to figure out what's wrong with a person. All right. So, number one, what activity do you enjoy most outside of work?
Sleep.
Brilliant.
Facts. Sleep.
Brilliant answer. What's the first album you ever purchased?
I'm not a big music buyer. The first album I remember being bought for me was Dirty Dancing. Yes, I'm dating myself, so we'll go with Dirty Dancing.
Love it. Oh my gosh. That's one of the best soundtracks ever. Are you
Right?
kidding me? Yeah. That's our gem. That's our gem, Jen.
Right.
All right. Well, what's the last song you streamed?
Astronauts in the Ocean. It's my 6-year-old's favorite song, so it's on loop every day.
What? Girl, that was me. Luca had that thing on totally on repeat a few years ago. What?
Yeah.
You gotta love the kids. The kids will keep you hip, all
The kids
right?
will keep you hip.
All right. What's your favorite junk food?
Ooh, popcorn, sweet or salty, or both.
Ooh, all right. I like that. Okay, here we are. What's the best age?
Oh gosh, any that you're alive and healthy, and
I'm
any
gonna
of
have to,
them in
right?
utero,
Today.
you know, them
Today.
all.
Oh my God, that's a good answer. What's your favorite season?
Ooh, summer, hands down.
Okay, I see that. All right, name a Greek letter.
Omega.
All right, texting or talking?
Oh gosh, it depends. You know how cute I look that day. I don't know. You know, both.
Exactly. I woke up today. How am I feeling today? All
Right,
right, we can see each other,
exactly.
right? Okay, who's your celebrity crush?
Oh gosh, I have to think. I honestly don't watch. I watch a lot of kids TV. Who do I like? I've always liked Ryan Gosling. The guy from oh, what's that show? His name is Kofi. I can't remember the last name. It's a toss up between the two.
Oh
Chris
yeah, he was on
Turbo or something.
yeah, he's in the portrait. He was in Insecure
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
he's in
last
Queen
season.
Sugar or Sugar Queen or something. It's a TV
Yeah,
show he's
yes.
on. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yes.
that
Yes, girl. Yeah. Okay. And finally, when is your smile the brightest?
Oh gosh, well, I've been using your new toothpaste, so that's been helping. Yeah, just just any good day. You wake up in a good mood, you have your coffee, the kids aren't getting on your nerves, you get something accomplished, you do some self care. It's any of those moments. I mean, you mentioned gratitude, just any of those, anything you can sit down and be grateful about.
That's perfect. I agree with you. I agree with you. It could be, special moments throughout the day. It could be at the start of the day, the end
Mhm.
of the day, random times.
Right.
Wow. All right, Dacia, Dr. Russell Goman. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Up Your Smile Game podcast. We'll see you soon.